We did.
So then you went to junior high at
Went
Center?
to the junior high school.
After Norway, you went up to Center.
Right, yes, after 6th grade, you went to junior high school, which then was by itself. Center School was a wooden school. When I first came here, they rebuilt that to a brick building. But junior high was a pleasure. Francis X. Keating was the physical ed director, plus mechanical drawing, plus shop. And Howard Hershaft was the chemistry teacher, and physics, and Alice Williams, and Ebba Peterson, mathematics and English, and Miss Howell was domestic science, where she taught the girls cooking and so forth. And,
it would go better if they called it science.
Yeah.
So it's amazing you remember them all.
And I remember one time we were going to junior high school, about 1927, 28, around there. A squad of World War I fighter planes visited Dunn Field.
Oh, yes,
in the Meadows. And,
so Dunn Road, you know where Dunn Road is, right?
Yeah.
That was a field?
There was an airfield there. Yeah, and Harry Herman was the chief pilot down there, and Clarence Washburn was a aeronautical engineer. He had something to do with that. And I remember Junior Yarsley, who was our chief of police for many years. Was very friendly with Clarence. When we moved there, the chief of police was John Henderson, and he lived right across the street from me.
Oh, yeah.
Very good friend. And Circle Road was dead end. We had just 4 houses when we moved there. And
so I want to go back to the airport, airfield.
The airfield.
So they were just, in the 20s and 30s, they were just little, like, biplanes or?
Yeah, right. They're just small biplanes mostly, and grass runways. I mean, they didn't have no paved runways.
And no tower.
No tower, no. And I remember they used to have air shows now and then. They had wing walkers and parachute jumpers.
We still have those in places.
And things of that nature.
Here in Long Meadow.
Right here, yeah. And as I say, it was a wonderful town to grow up in. We had a baseball team, the Long Meadow Ockos.
The Long Meadow what?
Ockos. It's the Athletic Association is the Ockos. I don't know what the name was really.
Oh, that's like an acronym?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's not an animal I never heard of. No. Okay. And who did you play? Like the other towns?
The other towns had teams, and we'd furnish competition for each other and play. And off William Street, we had the baseball park is still there. It's still being used. I think they put a couple of new streets in there recently.
On Williams?
Pardon?
On William Street?
Yeah, off William Street, yeah. Yep.
Yes, I know where you mean.
I think there's a name we have for that ball field that eludes me at the time. I think it's just a William Street diamond. But
that's not Strobel?
No. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Then I had a job also at the cemetery, mowing lawns. When I was
very important at a cemetery. Very important.
Teenager, and I got 50 cents an hour for that.
That was very good. So that was the First Church?
Yes.
What runs that?
Right behind the church, yeah.
Yeah, so they hired you to mow the lawn. That was good. Yep. 50 cents an hour. I
have a spot reserved for myself there. My wife is already there.
Oh, sorry.
And so that's where I met my wife.
In the cemetery?
Not in the cemetery,
Oh,
in the church.
Oh,
Young people's group, both 16 years old. She went to what was then classical high
Yes,
school.
I
now,
went to classical.
And I mean Central when she
oh, it was
went.
Central before it was
And it's
classical.
classical
Right.
now, and I went to Tech. And we'd meet after school and walk her home.
So
She
you
lived on Forest.
you met on the trolley?
Yep. We would take the trolley home. She lived on Forest Glen Road, which is the first
I know, yeah.
street in town, and I lived I lived 2 fairs away. There was a fair limit.
Oh, there were zones?
Yeah.
Fair zones?
And so then we attended First Church and joined and were members there since 1931 for her and 32 for me.
Wow. And childhood sweethearts.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yep. And so.
And then, let's see. So when did you get married?
Married in 1939. 39.
And you got a house in Long Meadow.
No, we found an apartment on Locust Street in Springfield.
Right. Okay.
Where we lived until about 1941 or so.
Just before the war.
Just before the war. Then I was drafted, and we had a son by that time, Alan, and we moved to Garfield Street in Springfield just before I went into service. And I was in service about 1.5 years in Aberdeen. I never was in harm's way.
So you weren't in the European or Pacific theaters?
No, I was in Aberdeen, and I was discharged in December of '44. That was before the war ended in '45.
Right.
And so I lost my dad in '45. Same year Franklin Roosevelt died. And I lost my father-in-law in '48.
Wow.
And he built the house on Forest Glen Road in 1912. And we moved to the second floor of that 2-family house in 1949, where we raised our 3 sons. And I've lost 2 of my sons. Jim was the youngest at 57. He had diabetes, heart intact due to that condition. And in '09, I lost Frederick, my second son, to prostate cancer.
Oh, my.
And he served in Vietnam as a Marine sergeant. Prostate cancer did him in 2009.
That's one of the big disadvantages of living a long time,
Yep.
isn't it?
And I miss him so much.
Oh, yes.
He was very, very considerate of my welfare, and I am lucky to have his wife, my daughter-in-law, still helps
Yes,
me with
that's
my
good.
paperwork and taking me to doctors and dentist appointments and so forth.
Wonderful. So your children then went to Converse Street School.
Yes, they did. All three sons went to Converse Street School.
That's nice and handy there, right down the
And
block.
they went to the new then high school, which they are now rebuilding.
I know.
All 3 went there.
To the new high school. So they went all the way through the high school?
Yes.
They didn't have to go to Springfield? They
No.
went all the way through.
The high schools was built so that they all went to Long Meadow High School and did not have to go to Springfield as I did.
Right. Was that a hardship?
I'm sorry?
Was that a hardship going to Springfield?
Not really. We didn't consider it a hardship. We would get student tickets for the trolley cars. As I
Right.
say, the trolleys ran every half hour.
Yes.
And it was not an inconvenience at all. As a matter of fact, it was kind of fun. And we all trooped down State Street when school let out. We had Jerry somebody. I remember the traffic cop.
You remember the traffic cop?
The traffic cop. He always was joshing with the students as they were coming down. He was talking to them all the time. And Jerry, I forget his last name. It was Irish.
Yeah.
And he was a congenial sort of a traffic cop. And of course, Springfield at that time was a lovely city.
Yes.
It was wonderful. We had department stores and 5 and 10 cent stores.
That's right.
All sorts of
Woolworth,
things.
Kresge's.
Right. The trolley cars used to change on what was then Vernon Street. It's now Boland Way.
Right.
And that's where we would go to get the trolley to go home after school.
Now, somebody told me that the way the trolley went was up through the park
The trolley went
to get to Long Meadow.
to get to Lima. The trolley went Main Street to Locust, to Fort Pleasant,
Yes.
to Sumner, to Long Hill, down Long Hill past the Barney Estate,
Right.
and up to Long Meadow. That's no longer there, of course. It's all I-91.
Right.
And then the Long Meadow was double track to just below Maple Road, where it changed to a single track to the state line.
Was the trolley crowded? Did most people use the trolley?
Yeah, the trolleys were doing a job that was necessary at the time. There were a good many passengers all the time. People would use them. It was there, and it was convenient. You didn't have to park your car or anything
Right.
like that.
Or get the oil changed? Or...
And the half hour is not much of a wait for any time. And so Vernon Street was right next to Forbes and Wallace, and Steiger's was across the street. Stillman's one way, Poole's was another way, Woolworth's, Kresge's, Carlisle's, Johnson's Bookstore.
Oh, Johnson's Bookstore.
All these places that for shoppers.
Yes,
What could
there
be
was
better?
a lot to do. And it felt like we had more time then, didn't you think?
Well, there's a lot of good memories I have growing up. I've been very lucky all my life, and due usually to people I've met on the way who have given a hand where a hand is needed.
Right.
And Long Meadow is, I love the town.
Well, we're very lucky to have had you here today.
Well, thank you very much.
You really have lived through a lot of history in
It's been a
Long Meadow.
pleasure.
And thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed Russ Hoekstra as much as
have
I did.
I certainly have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.